Ever wonder how sports went from casual games to a global industry worth billions?
It's a wild ride, honestly.
Well, we're going to unpack all that today
Right.
with a deep dive into Matthew Futterman's book, Players.
It's a fascinating look at how money and power completely reshaped the sports world.
And you know that romanticized idea of pure sports
Yeah.
that we often associate with the past?
Right.
Futterman kind of dismantles that myth.
Oh, yeah. He shows how amateur sports, while appearing pure, often exploited athletes.
So no financial security.
Basically, they lack the financial freedom to really reach their full potential.
Now, Futterman introduces some real game changers in his book.
Oh, absolutely.
Individuals who challenge the system.
Visionaries, really.
And one figure who really stands out is Mark McCormack.
The pioneer of athlete representation.
What's so interesting is that McCormack couldn't even play contact sports himself,
Right, because of a childhood injury.
but he found a different way to compete.
He channeled that competitive drive into the business side of sports.
You know, it seems like his whole upbringing molded his approach to the sports business.
Totally. Futterman highlights how McCormack had this almost obsessive need for structure, for competition.
Like how so?
He'd meticulously organize games, even play entire seasons of Major League Baseball in his head.
Wow. And his parents played a role too, right?
Absolutely. His
Huh.
father pushed him to excel in one chosen field.
Focus all that energy.
Exactly. And his mother was all about financial awareness,
Smart lady.
always emphasizing money management,
Which honestly is perfect preparation for navigating the financial world of sports.
for sure. It equipped him to handle the complexities of athlete representation and endorsement deals.
And that was a pretty revolutionary concept back then, wasn't it?
Oh, completely. At the time, athletes were mostly seen as performers.
Not brands.
Right. McCormack saw their inherent value beyond the field.
And he really pioneered the idea of athletes as brands.
Exactly. He understood their potential to endorse products and really build a brand around their image.
So he goes out looking for the perfect athlete to partner with for this new venture.
And finds him in Arnold Palmer.
The charismatic golfer who was already on the rise.
Palmer had this captivating style.
Oh yeah, everyone loved watching him play.
And his popularity made him a marketing goldmine.
McCormack knew how to leverage that appeal,
He secured groundbreaking endorsement deals for Palmer.
including that famous contract with the golf club manufacturer, right?
It was a game changer.
This was huge.
Athletes were no longer just athletes. They were valuable assets who could profit from their talent off the field as well.
It completely changed the landscape of athlete compensation.
McCormack's vision went even further than individual athletes, though.
Oh, in what way?
He recognized the massive potential of television
To elevate athletes even more.
to showcase them, to create captivating content and generate huge revenue.
He really was ahead of his time.
He was, and, one of his most innovative creations was The Superstars.
A show we might take for granted now, but it was revolutionary back then.
Absolutely. This was a made-for-TV competition featuring top athletes from all different disciplines.
They'd compete against each other in a series of physical challenges.
It was a hit. People loved it.
And it showed just how much audiences loved seeing star athletes compete, even outside of their usual sport.
That success solidified McCormack's vision. Athletes were the stars, and they could carry a show regardless of the specific sport.
And that led to even more innovative ideas.
Like the skins game for golf.
A televised tournament, specifically designed to be super exciting for TV audiences.
McCormack was a master at leveraging television to boost the status of athletes and create content that people loved.
But his influence wasn't limited to just entertainment.
Right. McCormack also strongly believed in athletes having a voice, in them advocating for their own rights and fair treatment.
And a key example of this is the Wimbledon boycott.
A turning point in professional tennis.
It all started with Nikki Pilic,
The Yugoslavian tennis star.
who got banned from Wimbledon.
Yeah, for a seemingly minor reason, too. He chose to play in a pro tournament instead of a Davis Cup tie.
You'd think that wouldn't be a big deal,
But it ignited a firestorm
because the players saw it as an attempt to control their schedules,
and limit their earning potential.
which is a big deal.
It was a power play by the governing bodies, and the players weren't having it.
So the ATP, led by Cliff Drysdale, organized a boycott of Wimbledon.
They demanded better treatment, more prize money.
And they wanted more control over their own schedules,
It put a lot of players in a tough spot.
especially the reigning champion, Stan Smith.
He had to choose between defending his title and supporting his fellow players.
A tough decision.
But in the end, he joined the boycott.
A powerful statement of solidarity.
It sent a shockwave through the tennis world,
Wimbledon went on, but without many of the top players.
and it proved a point.
The governing bodies had to acknowledge the players' demands.
The boycott forced them to the negotiating table.
It was a real turning point in the relationship between athletes and those in power.
The players realized they had collective power and could demand change.
The Wimbledon boycott really stands as a testament to what athletes can achieve when they stand together.
They fought for a better future for themselves and their sport.
And this theme of athlete empowerment continues in baseball with the arrival of free agency.
And at the heart of that story is Marvin Miller.
The executive director of the MLBPA.
He was brilliant. He understood labor law and fought tirelessly for baseball players' rights.
To improve their working conditions and their bargaining power.
But he faced stiff resistance from team owners.
Of course. They were used to having all the control.
They wanted to keep players tied to their teams, clinging to the reserve clause.
Which essentially meant players were bound to a team indefinitely.
But then came the catfish hunter case.
That was a pivotal moment.
It involved the Oakland A's owner, Charlie Finley.
Who was known for being difficult.
To say the least, Finley refused to honor the terms of Hunter's contract.
And that sparked a legal battle that captivated the baseball world.
It became a symbol of this fight for free agency.
The case pitted Miller and the players against the entire MLB ownership structure.
It was David versus Goliath.
And in a landmark decision, the court sided with Hunter.
It was a huge win,
The reserve clause was effectively dismantled.
paving the way for free agency in baseball.
Player empowerment like we'd never seen before.
They could finally negotiate their worth in a free market, control their own futures.
And the impact was huge.
Salaries exploded. The dynamics of the sport were forever changed.
The arrival of free agency really marked a turning point in the balance of power between players and owners.
And it's thanks to individuals like Marvin Miller who fought tirelessly for a fairer system.
But even with these wins, the evolution of sports continued.
Driven by television, new opportunities and challenges emerged.
And the NFL's rise to dominance is a perfect example of how the game changed.
It's a fascinating story. Their story is really about how the NFL went from a relatively unknown organization to the powerhouse we know today.
And a big part of that was strategic rule changes, right?
Absolutely. And savvy marketing, too.
And creating this almost mythical aura around quarterbacks.
It's wild to think about how they actually shaped the game to make it more exciting for TV audiences.
One guy who really pushed for this was Tech Schramm.
The visionary executive from the Dallas Cowboys.
He knew the league had to adapt to capture a wider audience.
Schramm introduced a bunch of rule adjustments in the late 70s that really changed how football is played.
Like what kind of changes?
Things like limiting contact with receivers and giving offensive linemen more power.
To make the games higher scoring.
Exactly. And to create a faster, more visually exciting game for viewers.
So it almost became a more Hollywood version of football.
In a way, yes. And that had a huge impact on the quarterback position.
Because suddenly they were at the center of all these thrilling plays.
Right. All this emphasis on offense really pushed the quarterback into the spotlight.
They became the stars.
And that coincided with John Vuono taking over NFL properties.
Who brought his marketing genius to the NFL.
Vuono saw this massive opportunity to capitalize on the league's growing popularity.
Through merchandise and licensing deals.
He realized there was gold to be mined in branding and merchandise.
Especially by leveraging the popularity of these star players.
Vuono really focused on improving the quality of NFL merchandise, especially jerseys.
To make them more appealing to fans.
He wanted high-quality, authentic products.
And he knew that showcasing the league's most popular players, those quarterbacks, would drive sales.
It turned them into icons, into walking billboards.
Which was great for the league, but what about the players?
Well, that's where it gets a bit complicated.
How so?
Vuono created this thing called the Quarterback Club.
I've heard of that. It was a licensing deal, right?
Right. To maximize profits from the star quarterbacks.
Sounds smart.
But it inadvertently created a rift between the star players and the rest of the league.
And that weakened their collective bargaining power.
Exactly.
So the NFL's marketing machine, while successful, also created this unintended consequence.
This tension between individual stardom and collective bargaining.
Which is something we still see in sports today.
The desire to market individual athletes often clashes with the need for player unity.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
It is. But, moving on, you can't talk about marketing and athlete branding without mentioning Nike.
Their rise to dominance is incredible.
From a small operation to a global giant.
It's a story of pure entrepreneurial spirit, product innovation, and marketing brilliance.
Nike's founders, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, were passionate about athletic wear.
And they knew what athletes needed.
Knight was a runner, Bowerman was his coach. They understood performance.
It's mind-blowing to think they started by selling shoes out of Knight's car trunk.
But their dedication to quality and constant innovation propelled them forward.
Bowerman was famous for his tinkering, his creative approach.
Legend has it, he got the inspiration for the waffle sole from his wife's waffle iron.
Seriously,
It's true. He saw the pattern and thought it could provide better traction for running shoes.
talk about thinking outside the box.
But Nike's success wasn't just about product innovation. Their marketing was genius.
They really understood the power of associating their brand with athletes who embodied their values.
Dedication, perseverance, pushing boundaries.
And no one represented those qualities better than Michael Jordan.
That partnership was a stroke of genius.
It redefined athlete endorsements.
Nike saw Jordan's potential not just as a basketball player, but as an icon.
They created this whole mythology around him that resonated worldwide.
Air Jordans became a cultural phenomenon.
More than just shoes.
They represented style, aspiration.
It was a game changer for how athletes could be marketed and compensated.
And Nike's focus on individual branding, particularly in basketball, had a profound impact on the sport.
But it also had its downsides.
What do you mean?
This focus on individual stardom put immense pressure on young athletes to achieve superstar status.
And it sometimes shifted the focus away from teamwork, from the pure joy of the game.
Right. This relentless pursuit of profit and individual glory can have unintended consequences.
It's a delicate balance.
It makes us question if we're losing sight of the core values of sports.
Nike's story, while undeniably successful, should make us think about the evolving nature of sports, the influence of money and branding.
And whether we're prioritizing the right things.
It's a cautionary tale.
From orchestrated rule changes to strategic marketing, the NFL's rise is fascinating.
It shows how sports have been shaped by the desire for profit and entertainment.
And another major development we've seen in recent decades is the rise of team-owned networks,
Like the U.S. network.
which has completely changed the economics of sports broadcasting.
It all started with Leo Hendry.
A cable television pioneer,
He was brought in to try and save the struggling Yankee Nets venture.
which was a partnership between the New York Yankees and the New Jersey Nets.
Right. Hendry had this vision of a team-owned regional sports network.
A bold idea.
He wanted to give teams more control over their content and their revenue.
And it worked.
The Yas network became a blueprint for other teams.
It showed them that they could make a lot of money by owning and controlling the distribution of their games.
But this trend has led to some issues for fans.
How so?
It's led to fragmentation in sports broadcasting.
It's become more complex and often more expensive for viewers.
Cable bills have gone up.
And a lot of games that used to be on free TV are now only available on these specialized networks.
So while it's been financially successful for teams, it's created this tension between maximizing profits and keeping the games accessible for fans.
Which brings us back to that recurring theme we've seen throughout our discussion today.
The delicate balance between the financial interests of teams and leagues and the needs and desires of the fans who ultimately make it all possible.
Right. The fans are the lifeblood of these sports.
The Yes Network's story, while innovative, also serves as a reminder that these business decisions can have unintended consequences.
It's a complex landscape that requires careful consideration of the impact on all stakeholders.
We have to find ways to keep sports thriving while ensuring that fans can still enjoy the games they love.
Amidst all the negotiations, the billion-dollar deals, the marketing blitz,
It's easy to forget what really matters.
it's important to remember that sports are ultimately about the athletes.
About their passion, their dedication.
And some athletes truly embody that spirit.
Like the U.S. women's national soccer team.
They are a shining example of what sports should be about.
They've achieved so much success despite facing more challenges and inequalities than their male counterparts.
Their story is one of perseverance, of fighting for what they deserve.
And they've inspired countless fans with their skill and determination.
They are a breath of fresh air compared to the often insular, money-driven world of men's professional sports.
Where individual branding and big contracts sometimes overshadow the true spirit of competition.
The U.S. women's team shows us that there's another way.
That athletic excellence and teamwork can thrive even without the astronomical salaries and massive media attention.
They are role models, both on and off the field.
They've worked tirelessly to grow their sport while fighting for equal pay and fair treatment.
Their dedication is truly inspiring.
It's a powerful reminder that the heart of sports lies in the passion, the dedication of the athletes themselves.
Right, and their story really highlights that different approach to sports, one that prioritizes the love of the game and not just the money.
Exactly. And they show us that success and impact can come without those huge salaries and endorsements.
Their commitment to growing the sport, advocating for equality, it's truly inspiring.
It really is. They demonstrate that the pursuit of excellence can go hand in hand with making a positive impact on the world.
It's a refreshing perspective in a sports landscape that often feels dominated by profit and individual branding.
Definitely. Their story gives us hope for a more balanced, more accessible future for sports, where everyone can benefit, not just the few at the top.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Futterman's players, I think it's crucial to recap the key takeaways, to give our listeners a clear picture of how sports have evolved.
Absolutely. Let's distill those insights into 10 essential points.
First, we can't ignore the fact that romanticizing the past often overlooks the exploitation inherent in amateur sports.
Athletes deserve fair compensation and the opportunity to reach their full potential without financial barriers.
Second, we have to acknowledge the incredible impact of Mark McCormack. He revolutionized athlete representation, recognizing their value as brands.
He truly laid the groundwork for the modern sports marketing industry.
Third, Arnold Palmer's success story perfectly illustrates the power of athletes as brands.
He became a blueprint for leveraging personal image and strategic marketing to achieve incredible financial success.
Fourth, the emergence of television transformed sports forever.
It turns sports into a visually captivating form of entertainment, driving both revenue and popularity through the roof.
Fifth, the Wimbledon boycott showcased the collective power athletes have when they demand fair treatment.
They forced the governing bodies to listen and negotiate a better future for the sport.
Sixth, free agency in baseball, spurred by the catfish hunter case, marked a significant shift in power dynamics.
It gave players the freedom to negotiate their worth and control their own destinies.
Seventh, the rise of the quarterback, coupled with the NFL's marketing savvy, turned the league into a merchandising juggernaut.
It showed the potential of building a brand around individual stars and capitalizing on fan enthusiasm.
Eighth, while the Nikeization of sports brought massive profits and elevated individual branding, it also raised ethical concerns about priorities and the pressure on young athletes.
It's a reminder that the relentless pursuit of profit can have unintended consequences.
Ninth, the creation of team-owned networks, like the SS Network, created lucrative new revenue streams for teams.
But it also fragmented the broadcasting landscape, leading to higher costs and limited access for viewers.
And finally, the U.S. women's national soccer team gives us a model for success built on passion, teamwork, and dedication, even in the face of inequality.
They remind us that the true spirit of sports lies in the pursuit of excellence, the bonds of camaraderie, and the unwavering commitment to a shared goal.
So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through the evolution of sports, guided by the insights from Futterman's players.
It's been quite a journey.
We've seen how money, power, and the vision of a few individuals have shaped the sports world we know today.
And it leaves us with some important questions to ponder.
As we move forward, we need to consider the direction sports will take.
Will profit continue to be the driving force?
Or will we find a way to create a more balanced, more equitable sporting landscape?
One that prioritizes accessibility, fairness, and the spirit of competition.
These are questions we all need to grapple with, as fans, as athletes, as those who contribute to the sports world in any way.
The future of sports is in our hands.
That's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that passion for the games we love alive.